Shashvatam Ramayamanayam Nirvana Shanti Pradam Brahma Shambhu Anindra Sevyamanishan Vedanta Vedyam Vibhum Ramakya Jagadishvara Mayam Sura Guru Maya Manusyam Harim Vandeyam Karunakaram Raghuvaram Bhupalachuramanim. So, I'm sorry for this little gap singing this shloka from Ramcharitmanas, which I used to sing since more than 15 years, going to the different conferences on Ramayana. Coming from France, I certainly belong to a civil and democratic society with republican values. But what happened those days in January the religion has taken very disturbing place in Europe, in the world also, but especially in Europe. This make the mankind stand up. In such circumstances, even if they seem a little bit far from India, but I think the terrorists in India also move towards sacred text so highly as it is, makes me cautious. But what mankind owes to the Vedic scriptures empowers me in my duty of a world citizen to answer the call. As Ramayana scholar, writer, and translator, I intended in this paper, I wrote the paper, focusing on Sita, heroine on Valmiki's Ramayana, but also is a Vedic deity presiding over agriculture, said to have lived before in Krita age as Vedavati, and to be the goddess Lakshmi in human form. I will try, through temporal explanation of the relation between the Vedas and the Dharma Shastra, Itihasa, and Purana on one side, and sacred and ecological dimension of Sita Rasoi, or in Hindi, Sita Ki Rasoi, as Kalyan Tirthan. On the other side, to argue for the Vedic comprehension of the universe and the place of the woman in our contemporary society. So I wrote several books to make in some way Ramayana more close to the, especially French people who don't know much about this great epic. Even the name is not really known. When I was coming here, one of my friends told me, what's the Veda? Why are you going there? What's the Ramayana? So I wrote several books. There is I will read some passage from my last book concerning the position, woman position in the world. How to speak about the ideal woman at the beginning of the at the beginning of the new millennium, when we know what French citizens, from scientific advances to political battles, have acquired the right to everyone seeks his sex. Sexuality appears plural and diverse today. The French exchange patriarchal mores against the more liberated mores, while India is still sticking to these ancestral models. It is said that a society is measured by the place it reserves to women. The status of the woman refers to her rights and duties in family and social life in comparison with that of men. It seems to me legitimate to dwell on the ideal model, Sita, when it comes to the Indian subcontinent, where the average Hindu woman lives up to the ideal of Pativrata, chaste, devoted, and loyal wife. Sita is one of those beautiful female figures whose history of ancient India gives us many examples representing the ideal woman whom virtues raise to the level of divine perfection, but only after passing stringent tests where her courage, purity, patience will be put to the test. But Sita is more than that. It is grace. In her movements, whose curves slide into each other, which holds the future to the present. She is a spiritual food through means of clemency. This is Sita and many other things that new millennium will recognize only partially. In the contemporary India, the figure of the woman, although she is still largely absent from the predominant discourse of the new economic giant, is emerging more stronger. The symbol of Sita, Rama's wife, is still the model of the perfect woman. Neither the innocent Virgin Mary nor temptress. It is the woman who knows her place in society. The woman once married became Vadu, daughter-in-law, for whom it was imperative, it is imperative to adjust, even now, to adjust her husband, to the custom of the new husband family or in-law family becoming a new member. The relationship with the husband was based on trust. Only the husband was her support. Only the woman shared the fate of her husband. It was the husband who enhanced the beauty of his wife better than her finest jewelry. And that is saying enough. That is saying enough when we know that value are still taken, I mean jewelry value still taken today for Indian women some financial protection. She can dispose of her jewelry as her own property. One strict discipline was required of the woman, who was to follow her husband like a shadow. But this concerns more an epic period than really Vedic period. One could say that the husband's footprint would have been preferable to a palace and even a celestial chariot. It has to be noted that here that concerns rather epic, this also concerns rather epic period than the Vedic one. Such a case is hard to understand for the Western woman. And And I wonder if the French philosopher Elisabeth Badinter, you most probably didn't hear about her, but it's a quite competent philosopher, contemporary philosopher, who wrote recently one book, The Conflicts, Woman and Mother. So Elisabeth Badinter intentionally walked around the woman, the Indian woman. He wrote about European women, American, African, but she avoided Indian women. Maybe it's quite complicated for Western way of living to understand the Indian way, of woman Indian way of living, even shortly Indian way of living. The question that arises here, this is from a short passage from my book, The Venus of the New Millennium, which is for the moment in French. It will be translated. It is going on by my son, who is present here, and published this year. The question that arises here to understand the position of the Indian woman of today is her position in ancient India. The status of Hindu women in India has been fluctuating through the centuries. At times, she has been suppressed and oppressed, and at times she is regarded as the deity of the home. Her status can be evaluated from several angles, through her manhood, wifehood, and motherhood. The position of Indian women from ancient times has been determined by the believing that a man was born with the debts to service, to God, and to progenitors. Thus, by brahmacharya, by performance of Vedic sacrifices, and by procreating sons, he could liberate himself from those burdens. As a Vedic sacrifice could be performed only by a man jointly with his wife, the wife was necessary. Marriage was then a love marriage. Marriage was not only established, but also regarded as a social and religious duty and necessity. The Vedas says that unmarried person is unholy. Marriage was regarded as sacred religious union with mutual vows taken by the parties in the presence of sacred fire. The marriage sacrament made by union indissoluble. It has to be said here that the marriage was an obligation for women, but not for men. She had an honored place in the family, being the joint owner of the household, but could not hold or inherit property. The monogamy was the rule, but in royal families polygamy prevailed. The widow could contact another marriage regularly or under the custom of niyoga. The sati custom was not in practice at all, and dowry was rather a simple gift than a two-day's burden. Generally speaking, the position of the woman was fairly satisfactory, in spite of some observation in the Vedic literature like women had fickle mind. Daughter birth was less welcome than that of son, and it is still going today. The Atharva Veda contains ritual to ensure the birth of son. However, the depreciation of the daughter's birth didn't lead to female infanticide in Vedic period, what came to be a case in the medieval period, which persists till now. Coming to girls' childhood, even not really desired at birth, daughter had the same affectionate treatment as boy, and goddess of fortune resided in the person of unmarried daughter. Rama, on his return to Ayodhya from a long exile, received the coronation, ablution, abhisheka from unmarried girls. This is in Ramayana. Concerning her education till the beginning of the Christian era, the ceremonial initiation, Upanaya, into Vedic studies was common for both boys and girls. The Atharva Veda observes that the brahmacharya period of education is necessary for a successful marriage. When they will lose, what they will lose becoming ineligible for Vedic studies in a later age, educated, many became distinguished poetess of philosophers as, for example, Gargi Vachanakavi, whom we can see in the court of King Janaka of Videha taking part in the philosophical tournament, questioning the sage Vajravalkya, the cultivation of fine arts, music, dance, painting was encouraged, and the recitation of the Sama hymns was originally the girls' faction. When Deva and Asuras wanted to win over the goddess of speech, they found the best way was to dance before her. And this is how it is believed that women can be easily won by a handsome one singing and dancing gracefully. In Europe, we still have those kind of old songs called serenades. The new tendency for a child marriage, lowering the marriageable age from 15 and 16 to the 12 to 13 and even 8 to 10, became an obstacle for girl studies. Even the initiation rituals, Upayana, so necessary for the proper Aryan status of women, was reduced to a formality and finally dropped out. This was an end to Vedic education of women, and it will be her immense intellectual inferiority which will lead her to the perpetual tutelage for her benefit. It's a question. I will recite here Manu Smriti, 9th chapter, speaking about the relation man-woman. Manu said, just one moment, Manu said that the father was her in childhood, husband in youth, and son in old age. A woman is not fit for independence. Manu goes further, saying that a father who does not give her in marriage in the proper time should be blamed. A husband who does not have sex with her at the proper time should be blamed. And the son who does not guard his mother when her husband is dead should be blamed. So let us just salute my son who came with me to accompany his mother, because I am a widow. I'm not joking exactly. I will explain. Since 20 years, quite 20 years, I'm coming regularly to India and staying at least 6 months, but not in the south, in the north, especially in Varanasi. So Varanasi is a very sacred place, but also very conservative place. Sorry for this term. Maybe it's better to say very traditional place. So my son came with me. He was very young, even small, and he grew up with Indian children. So he speaks not Canada, but he speaks Hindi, even Bhojpuri. And he catch this habit to be with mother, take care of mother, and what is not usually in Europe, do like Indian sons. So I will, sorry, but I feel a little bit tired today, so I will not read all my paper, which will be maybe a little bit long. I am not going to speak about the Tankalar school, explaining that the individual soul cannot really act alone. An individual soul is always dependent of him, of the master. But I rather would speak about the Sita Ki Rasoi, Sita Rasoi or Sita's kitchen. This is also the passage from my book. Sorry, it's not to put my book before you. It's only to show that I'm doing some kind of effort to make your culture, which became a little bit my culture also. I am very devoted to Ramayana since 20 years. To make this more understandable to my people from Europe. And in the same way, let me just salute. I have to find the Professor Anuradha from the Maharani's Arts College, who invited us yesterday. I don't know if she's here, but she was here yesterday. She invited me and my son to speak to the students in the college about our attachment to the Indian tradition. And I really, really appreciate this initiative. I think it's not only to meet like this together and speak about the Veda, recite the Vedic hymns. We have to try to put them. The contemporary people will not come back. We have to try to approach the Vedic system of thinking, even of living, and mostly of living, to approach to the contemporary world. So when she asked me as outsider, and even in some way Aryan people coming from Western world, when she came very nicely and asked me to come and to speak, I was really very honored, and again I thank to this person. And this kind of approach you have to do, because anyhow, with the technological advances, with the technology which took all over the world, you cannot avoid this progress. The only way we have all people standing by the Vedic knowledge, the only way we have is to take, try to take and carry, as hardly it is to carry with us to the new generation. So let me read one more passage about the Sita Rasoi. Let me remember my first visit to India during Ayodhya's event in December 1992. I went to the scene of the tragic event and skrew after crossing a maze of ropes, forming an inevitable path to the small chapel dedicated to God Rama, and surprising to me, brought in atheistic, sorry, but I was totally in atheistic spirit when I came first time to India. in atheistic spirit of a socialism is told and then vanish, and again it's coming a little bit, but very hardly. Sita Rasoy survived the demolition of the Babri Masjid in the same year. The kitchen, Rasoy in Hindi, at that time it must be the same, on the ground, 3 tiles in green, white and black, with the rolling pin, the round rolling slab, and a chula, and above Sita's chula is oven, and above Sita's altar, 5 fire beginning purifier, of course, about the Sita's altar is a place to make the food. That Sita, from the Ramayana, the Sita, it's a prominent place. The Sita, newly married, prepared her first meal for Dasharatha, her father-in-law, Rama's father. And that was also the place where Rama child used to take his meals. Sita, the incarnation of the cultivated field, is described as a domestic forest by the perfect wife rituals whose first duty is to cook for her husband and family, but also for guests and gods. In the forest, Sita will cook for Rama and Lakshmana during their long exile, and for her twins, Rama and Lava. But when she met with Ravana, turning into Muni, she will be captured by him because of that same duty of food offerings as prasada. First for gods, then for the others, including guests or hosts. I confess I was seriously challenged by the discovery. It took me a long time to understand the true meaning of Kalyan Tirthanka. I did my speech on that subject a few years later in the occasion of the International Ramayana Conference held in Ahmedabad in Gujarat, Gujarat Vidyapith, founded by Mahatma Gandhi. It has to be mentioned here that Mahatma, in his attempt to reach women, wanted Indian women to cultivate Sita's high value. Where I was applauded for her speaking from the perspective of Sita Rasoy, symbolizing female power. It should be understood here, it doesn't mean that Sita, what can appeal to actually, I mean to the contemporary feminists, maybe in India also, appear that Sita jumped from the kitchen just to the test of Agni Pariksha. Actually, in the Ramayana, we don't see Sita cooking. But these cooking altars show and represent a banquet meaning, symbols, and concept on the roles of woman, wife and goddess, woman, wife, and goddess, related to the production of the perfect government. In Ramayana, Sita is closely related to the Rama Rajya. So, perfect government is Sita's generosity and magnificence for a future world of prosperity and peace. And Akara Ramanujan, it's a scholar from the south, explained that there is no difference between home, his interpretation of 300 Ramayana and some other works was taught at the Delhi University, but in connection with some Hindu Orthodoxy in 2011, the university, Free University of Delhi was almost obliged to take off this. And I, personally, I regret this because we can learn much from this great scholar. So he said that there is no difference between home food and temple food. Wife uses Agni for meals, Brahmin for prayers. The Sita Rasoi, there are several throughout India to mark the stops of the divine couple during their exile, have much more cosmic dimension, representing the long alliance between food and religion in India. Sita wife and Sita goddess are commemorated across the subcontinent by Sita Rasoi, which means moving feast. It should be reminded here that Sita in the Vedic period was the goddess of agriculture, fertility and abundance. Sita is a pharaoh goddess, has also an ecological dimension as the incarnation of the cultivated field. Sita will be abandoned at the outskirts of the forest because of some people discontent about her chastity. But the reason is more profound. It is her desire for the golden deer, and its price has to be paid. One should kill only to eat, or when his life is in real danger. Sita herself reminds Rama his dharma during their exile during 14 years exile. Remind Rama that he should not kill all those Rakshasa if they don't aggress him. So, the violation of the forest integrity asks for banishment, and banishment, Rama's banishment is a gift to the forest in the way to make possible the survival of the city and the civilization, reinstalling the balance between these two distinct spaces. Could we see here the beginning of woman's alienation to her procreative nature, making creative man the only representative of the culture? This is my question also. Let me come back for a while to the feminist body and her issue of ecological, scientific, and feminist discourse which advocates the comeback to the nature. Under the apparent simplicity is hidden the reversal of values. After the exploitation of man by man and woman by man, exploitation of nature by man, comes exploitation of woman by nature. Mother nature, natural birth, suckling, comeback of babies, washable napkins, and material instinct, again, maternal instinct, again of the day, dividing violently feminine world. This new feminism put the motherhood in the center. For Indian average women, but there is some difference for middle class women. The issue doesn't come in these terms since she was always devoted to her progeny and she reaches the real respectable status only after accomplishing her mother's role. Sita, even abandoning the forest but pregnant, could dispose of herself once her twins have grown up. The marriage laws and customs shows whether men regarded women as a market commodity or war prizes, or whether as valued as indispensable partner for happy family life. The freedom given to women in the settlement of their marriage and their household, and to some extent to their property rights, proves man's capacity to control his natural love for power and possession. The degree of freedom given to women to move in society, taking part in its public life, shows how far the same society has realized the necessity of women's contribution in the development of the society as a whole. It can be pointed that the same index can be used in the matter of religion. How far a religion goes in ritual assignments to women shows also the society concern for the fair sex. But this is not different in Western either concerning religion. Recently, one woman was promoted to the high honor post, but she's promoted, but she cannot really confess. The traditional confrontation between the sexes, between men and women, in contemporary India has traces and mindset that were established during the initial subjugation of the patriarchal Aryan system over the matriarchal Aryan no one. During the last 2 millennia, the position of women split down by the prohibition of widow remarriage, revival of sati custom, spread of parda, dowry burdens, and society's attitude towards her was that of patronizing one. Usually, the condition of women improves as society advances to modern times. It seems that Indian women didn't gain much in status through the ages since Vedic period. With the new technological advances, it should be recognized that an era of rationalism, without giving up the spirituality, religion and democracy must go together. And equality or in responsibilities and freedom. Freedom means not be just free. Freedom is to take plainly own responsibility, as at home, as in the society. This time has come, and now is the question how, in French we say vivre ensemble, live together. Live together, the Vedic ritual shows, and they show need for both, and not separately, but together. This is the only way for happy and harmonious. And of course, if we are happy and living in harmony, we can prosper. And we cannot prosper separately, we can prosper only together. And men must now, I mean, even it is not was not case till now, from now men must, I am a woman and of course I have to speak in a woman way, but it's true that men cannot survive without women and must understand that woman we are not equal. Badinter, the philosopher, she is working on some theory of resemblance, of sex resemblance, but likeness. But we are different and complementary. Woman cannot be man, man is not woman. We have to find the road where we meet each other in equal way, but not as equal, identical person. Man is man, woman is man. We have to recognize both. Woman has to recognize men. Feminists now, they work on the opposite side. They deny the man, but this is not the solution needed. For women, my recommendation, stay women, but take care of your man. Thank you.